Hare Krishna, everyone. So this is a beautiful, instructive story from the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. It's about the humble beggar. There is a story of a beggar who came to the palace of a king. The king heard the knock on the door and sent his servant to open the door. The beggar said, "I want some food or something." And then the servant said to the king, "It's just some beggar." And the king said, "All right, let's have a laugh. Call him up here." So the beggar came up to meet the king, and the king said, "All right, beggar, what do you want?" And the beggar said, "Some prasad, a little food or something." The king said to his servant to pretend to bring him some food. So the servant brought out an invisible plate and put it down. So just to humor the king, because he didn't want to offend him, he pretended that he was actually eating. So the beggar pretended he was actually eating this invisible food. So the king then asked, "Is it good? Nice rasgulla, samosa, kachori, fill yourself up, be happy." So then the beggar said, "Yes, it's good. I like the samosas." The king then said, "What else would you like?" And the beggar replied, "A nice wife." And the king then replied, "All right, bring on the dancing girls." So the servant ushered them in, the invisible dancing girls. And the king then said, "Aren't they dancing nicely?" So the beggar, he had no choice but to play along. So he said, "Yes, they are." Then the king went, "Which one do you want as your wife?" And again the beggar played along, "The sixth one." The king then said, "There's only 5. Take the 5th one. I'll give you a palace with her. You just go out the door down the road. There's so many palaces. Just take one of those and have a good time." And the king gave him a good slap on the back. So the man was very humble and submissive. He just said, "Yes, your honor. Yes, sir, my lord. Thank you very much." And he just went out. He went out of the gate, of the premises, and suddenly the heart of the king was touched by his submissive nature. Although the king was playing a joke on him, the man was cooperating, and he cooperated, and he didn't become offensive. He didn't fight back. He didn't say any harsh words or curse the king. So the king, he was touched by this, and he had a change of heart. And he told his servant to call the beggar back in. So the servant came to him and said, "The king is calling you." The king said, "I'm very pleased with your attitude. You've gone along with the joke. So bring out the real prasad." And so the servant brought out a lot of prasad for this beggar. And the king then said, "Now take yourself a real queen and have a real palace." So the morale of this story is, so in this way, just by his humble nature and just humoring and cooperating with the king, this beggar was blessed with so much opulence. So this is a really striking story about humility. And Srila Prabhupada describes humility in his purport to the Bhagavad Gita 13:8 to 12. Prabhupada says, "Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others." So this material conception of life, it makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a person who is in perfect knowledge, who knows that he's not the body, so nothing like honor or dishonor pertaining to the body is useless. So nothing is important. I mean, honor or dishonor pertaining to the body is useless. So one should not be hankering after this material deception. Some people are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one may enter into some group which is not actually following religious principles, and then that person just wants to advertise themselves as a religious mentor. The most essential quality necessary for achieving spiritual perfection is humility. Without humility, no matter how much else one may accomplish in the service of the Lord, one will be blocked by his false pride. So, the living being will not be released from his entanglement within the free modes of material nature, and thus will remain in the cycle of birth and death. Krishna is not very attracted by anything that is done out of pride, any service that is done out of pride, or any chanting of the holy name that is done with a heart full of pride. This kind of service does not attract Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Krishna himself, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, he says, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So that's very important instructions there by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's talking about Vaishnava behavior is that Vaishnava should be tolerant like a tree and submissive. So humility, therefore, very, very important quality. Prabhupada says it's with humility that we should approach a spiritual master and offer him all services, so then he will be pleased and bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, and if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, then that disciple will make advancement. So once a disciple, he wanted to show off to Srila Prabhupada how humble he was, so that Srila Prabhupada would recognize him for his humility. So he wrote Srila Prabhupada a letter where he presented himself as the most fallen. And so in order to teach him genuine humility, Srila Prabhupada wrote him back and said that he was not the most of anything. In fact, he was simply insignificant. So that's very interesting. Humility has to be not a fake humility just for external show, but it should be coming from the heart. It should be genuine. Hare Krishna.